The baby shower was picture perfect. Pink balloons, champagne, laughter. Then Marcus made his announcement. "There's someone special I'd like you all to meet," he said, smirking at the entrance. "My ex-wife, Sarah. The woman who couldn't give me children." The guests gasped as Sarah appeared in the doorway. Not alone. 4 identical toddlers in matching outfits walked beside her, each one carrying his eyes, his smile. "Say hello to your sons," she said, her voice steady as steel. The room erupted. What Marcus didn't know was that his perfect revenge had just become his public reckoning, and the beginning of the family he thought he'd never have. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. "I want to invite Sarah to the baby shower," Marcus Johnson said, smiling as he typed on his laptop. "I want her to see everything she missed out on." His best friend James Wilson looked up from his coffee, eyes wide with concern. "Sarah? Your ex-wife? That's a terrible idea, Marcus." It was a bright Tuesday morning in Atlanta, Georgia. Marcus sat in his large corner office at Peachtree Financial, where he worked as an investment banker. The glass windows offered a perfect view of the city skyline. On his desk stood a framed photo of his beautiful wife Amber, her stomach round with their baby girl, due in 3 months. "Why not?" Marcus asked, leaning back in his expensive leather chair. "It's the perfect opportunity to show her what a real family looks like." James shook his head. "It's been 3 years since your divorce. Why do you still need to hurt her?" Marcus looked down at the guest list for his baby shower, scheduled for the following month at the Grand Atlanta Hotel. The event would be everything his pregnant wife Amber deserved. Expensive decorations, gourmet food, and all their important friends in attendance. "Sarah couldn't give me children," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "Everyone knows that's why I left her. Now I have a beautiful wife who's pregnant with my daughter. Sarah should see what she couldn't provide." After James left, Marcus pulled out an invitation card with gold trim. He wrote Sarah's name and address with careful penmanship, adding a personal note at the bottom. "Come see what a real family looks like." He smiled as he sealed the envelope, imagining Sarah's face when she saw his pregnant wife. 1 week later in Boston, Sarah Williams opened her mailbox outside her townhouse in the Beacon Hill neighborhood. Among the bills and advertisements was a cream-colored envelope with Atlanta postage. She recognized the handwriting immediately. Inside her warm living room, Sarah sat on her couch and opened the envelope. The invitation was elegant, a baby shower for Marcus and Amber Johnson to be held at the Grand Atlanta Hotel, but it was the handwritten note at the bottom that made her pause. "Come see what a real family looks like." Sarah didn't cry. She didn't tear up the invitation. Instead, she looked toward her living room doorway where 4 identical little boys played with building blocks on the carpet. "Michael, be careful with your brother's tower," she called gently to one of the boys. All 4 looked up at the same time, their faces mirror images of each other. They had the same dark hair, the same brown eyes, and the same dimples when they smiled. Marcus's dimples. Sarah's best friend, Lisa Cooper, arrived 30 minutes later, letting herself in with her spare key. "I brought lunch," Lisa said, holding up a paper bag. She stopped when she saw the invitation on the coffee table. "What's that?" Sarah handed it to her. "Marcus invited me to his baby shower." Lisa read the invitation, her eyes widening at the handwritten note. "This is cruel, even for him." "Are you okay?" Sarah smiled, watching her boys play. "I'm fine. Actually, I think I'll go." "You'll what?" Lisa nearly dropped the bag of food. "Why would you put yourself through that?" Sarah picked up the invitation again. "Marcus left me 3 years ago because I couldn't have children. He told everyone that was the reason. He humiliated me." "I remember," Lisa said gently. "But why?" "What he doesn't know," Sarah continued, "is that our last round of IVF worked. 6 months after our divorce was final, I used one of our stored embryos." The 4 little boys giggled as they knocked down a tower of blocks. The doctor said there was a small chance of multiple births with IVF. I got quadruplets, 4 identical boys. Lisa looked from Sarah to the children. And Marcus has no idea? None. I moved to Boston for my job at Massachusetts General. I never told him. After the way he treated me, the things he said to our friends. Sarah's voice trailed off. So you're going to the baby shower to tell him? Sarah nodded. It's time he knows about his sons. Lisa watched the 4 boys playing, their movements perfectly synchronized. He's going to be shocked. That's what I'm counting on, Sarah said. The next morning, Marcus entered the bedroom of his Buckhead mansion where Amber was resting in bed, her hand on her pregnant belly. "Morning, beautiful," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. Amber smiled, her long blonde hair spread across the pillow. "Did you finish the guest list for the shower?" "All done. I sent the last invitation yesterday." Amber reached for her glass of water. "I still think 50 people is too many, but my mother insists it needs to be a big event." Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. "The Johnson Reynolds baby deserves the best. Your parents agree." Amber tilted her head, studying his face. "You seem extra happy today. Did something good happen at work?" "So, just excited about the shower," Marcus said. "It's going to be perfect." Later that day, Marcus met James for lunch at an expensive steakhouse in downtown Atlanta. "I sent the invitation to Sarah," Marcus announced as they were served their meals. James put down his fork. "You actually did it? I thought you might reconsider." "Why would I? This is my moment to show everyone I made the right choice. Sarah couldn't have children. Amber is giving me a daughter. It's vindication." "It's cruel," James said quietly. "Sarah was your wife for 7 years. You loved her once." Marcus cut his steak with precise movements. "That was before I knew she couldn't fulfill her most basic purpose as a woman." James winced. "Do you hear yourself? This isn't about Sarah anymore. It's about who you've become." "Save the lecture," Marcus said. "Sarah will see my perfect life, my perfect wife, and my soon-to-be perfect daughter. That's all that matters." True. In Boston, Sarah sat at her kitchen table with her phone in hand, her brother Ryan's voice coming through the speaker. "You're going to do what?" Ryan asked, his military training evident in his controlled tone. "I'm going to attend Marcus's baby shower," Sarah repeated. "And I want you to come with me." "To confront him about the boys?" Sarah looked at her sons eating lunch at the small table. "Yes, it's time he knows he has 4 children. After what he did to you, I'm surprised you'd give him the satisfaction of knowing about them at all." "This isn't about satisfaction, Ryan. It's about truth. And the boys deserve to know their father, even if he's not the man I thought he was." Ryan was silent for a moment. "When is this shower?" 3 weeks from Saturday. I've already contacted a photographer in Atlanta. Her name is Jessica Torres. She'll document everything." "You want photos of this confrontation?" "I want proof of his reaction. After what he put me through, I want evidence of the moment he learns the truth." After ending the call, Sarah dialed her parents' number. "Mom, can you watch the boys for a weekend? I need to go to Atlanta." She paused. It's time Marcus knew about his sons. That evening, Amber found the guest list on Marcus's desk. She scrolled through the names until one caught her eye. "Marcus," she called, walking into the living room where he sat watching television. "Why is your ex-wife's name on our baby shower guest list?" Marcus looked up, his expression carefully neutral. "I thought it would be nice to include her." "Nice?" Amber's voice rose slightly. "How is inviting your ex-wife to our baby shower nice?" "Sarah and I shared a lot of years together. I thought—" "The truth, Marcus," Amber interrupted. "We both know you didn't invite her to be nice." Marcus's smile faded. "Fine. I want her to see what she missed out on, what she couldn't give me." Amber placed her hands on her pregnant belly protectively. "You're using our baby, using me, to hurt someone else?" "It's not like that," Marcus protested. "It's exactly like that. Amber said quietly. "This should be about celebrating our daughter, not punishing your ex-wife." She turned to leave the room, then paused. "What happened to you, Marcus? Who are you becoming?" As she walked away, Marcus's phone buzzed with a notification. Sarah Williams had RSVP'd yes to the baby shower. Marcus smiled, unaware that in 3 weeks, his perfect world would shatter completely. Sarah placed the invitation on her bedside table and zipped her suitcase closed. The morning sun streamed through the windows of her Beacon Hill townhouse as she checked her watch one last time. "Are you really sure about this?" asked Ryan, standing in the doorway with his military posture. Her brother's short haircut and serious expression reflected his years in the Marine Corps. "I've never been more sure of anything," Sarah replied, looking at the 4 small backpacks lined up by the door. "The boys are ready. Mom and Dad will be here in 20 minutes to pick them up." Ryan picked up her suitcase. "Our flight leaves at 10:30. We should get going." Downstairs, the quadruplets sat in a row on the couch, each wearing identical blue sweaters. Sarah knelt in front of them. "Mommy has to go on a trip with Uncle Ryan," she said gently. "You're going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa at their house in Cambridge for a few days. Will you bring us presents?" asked Mark, the most talkative of the 4. Sarah smiled. "Of course I will." The doorbell rang and Sarah's parents entered the house. Her mother, Jennifer, immediately began hugging each boy. "There are my sweet grandsons," she exclaimed while her husband Robert loaded the boys' backpacks into their car. Jennifer pulled Sarah aside while Ryan helped the boys with their jackets. "Are you absolutely sure this is the right thing to do?" "Marcus could make your life difficult once he knows about the boys." "He already made my life difficult," Sarah said quietly. "But the boys deserve to know their father, and he deserves to know about them. Even if I'm doing it in a way that might embarrass him." Robert placed his hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Just be careful, sweetheart. Men like Marcus don't like to be surprised." After kissing each boy goodbye, Sarah watched her parents drive away with her children. The house felt suddenly quiet. "Our taxi is here," Ryan said, checking his phone. "Time to go to Atlanta." On the flight from Boston Logan International Airport, Sarah stared out the window at the clouds below. Ryan sat beside her, reading a magazine. "What if I'm doing this for the wrong reasons?" Sarah asked suddenly. "What if this is just about getting back at Marcus?" Ryan put down his magazine. "Is it?" Sarah sighed. "Part of me wants to see his face when he realizes he has 4 sons. After everything he said about me not being able to have children." She paused. "But another part of me knows the boys will ask about their father someday. They deserve the truth." "Marcus deserves nothing," Ryan said firmly, "but those boys deserve to know their father. And he should acknowledge them, even if it's painful for him." The flight attendant offered them drinks. After she left, Sarah pulled out her phone and looked at pictures of her sons. "What will I tell them when they're older? That their father left me because he thought I couldn't have children? That I ambushed him with the truth at his baby shower for his new wife?" Ryan took her hand. "You'll tell them the truth. That you did the best you could in a difficult situation." Sarah nodded, tucking her phone away. "I hope so." Thus, in Atlanta, Marcus Johnson stood in the Grand Atlanta Hotel's Crystal Ballroom, watching the staff arrange tables and chairs. The event planner, Olivia Chen, approached him with a clipboard. "Mr. Johnson, we've confirmed the pink rose centerpieces for all 20 tables. The dessert table will be against the north wall with the custom cake as the centerpiece." Marcus nodded, barely listening. He checked his phone again for the 5th time in 10 minutes. "Is everything all right, sir?" Olivia asked. "Yes, fine," Marcus replied. "Just confirming RSVPs." The truth was, he couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's response. She had accepted his invitation with no comment, no emotion. It bothered him more than he wanted to admit. His wife Amber entered the ballroom, her pink dress stretched over her pregnant belly. She walked slowly toward him, one hand supporting her back. "The room looks beautiful," she said, looking around. "Mom wants to know if we should put the gift table near the entrance or by the windows." "Whatever you think is best," Marcus said, still looking at his phone. Amber frowned. "Are you even listening to me?" Marcus looked up. "Of course. Gift table. Windows would be fine." "This is the third time today I've caught you checking for messages from her," Amber said quietly. "I still can't believe you invited your ex-wife to our baby shower." "It's not a big deal," Marcus insisted. "It is to me." Amber turned and walked away, her movements slow and careful. Marcus sighed and followed her out of the ballroom. "Amber, wait." Later that afternoon, Amber sat in her mother's living room in the Reynolds family estate in Buckhead. The mansion had been her childhood home, and she still found comfort in the familiar surroundings. "I don't understand why he invited her," Amber said, sipping her herbal tea. "It's like I'm just a prop in some game between them." Eleanor Reynolds, elegant in her expensive clothing, patted her daughter's hand. "Men can be petty, darling, especially when their ego is involved. I wanted this shower to be about our baby, about our family." Amber placed her hand on her stomach. "Not about his ex-wife." "Have you told Marcus how you feel?" Eleanor asked. "I've tried. He just dismisses my concerns." Amber set down her cup. "Sometimes I wonder if he married me because he loves me or because I could give him what Sarah couldn't." Eleanor's face hardened. "If that's true, he doesn't deserve you." At a downtown Atlanta restaurant, Marcus met his friend James for a late lunch. "She's coming," Marcus announced as soon as they sat down. Sarah RSVP'd yes to the shower. James shook his head. "I still think this is a terrible idea. It's not too late to uninvite her." "Why would I do that? This is perfect." "Perfect for who?" James asked. "Not for Amber, who's 6 months pregnant and shouldn't be dealing with this stress. Not for your guests, who will feel uncomfortable. And not for Sarah, who you're deliberately trying to hurt." Marcus took a drink of water. "Sarah made her choice. She knew how important having children was to me." "That's not how bodies work, Marcus. She didn't choose to have fertility issues. We spent 3 years trying. 3 years of treatments, doctors, disappointments." James leaned forward. "And then you left her. You didn't just leave her. You humiliated her. You told everyone she failed as a woman because she couldn't have children." "That's not what I said." "It's exactly what you said," James replied firmly. "I was there, remember? At the Palmers' dinner party when you announced to everyone that you were divorcing Sarah because she couldn't fulfill her basic purpose as your wife." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I was upset." "You were cruel," James said. "And now you're being cruel again by inviting her to your baby shower." "This will backfire, Marcus. I'm asking you one more time to reconsider." Marcus checked his phone, ignoring his friend's warning. "She's already on her way to Atlanta." Sarah and Ryan checked into their downtown Atlanta hotel room at 4 o'clock that afternoon. The room had 2 beds and a view of the city skyline. "I've arranged to meet with the photographer at 6, Sarah said, unpacking her suitcase. "Her name is Jessica Torres. She understands what we're doing and will be discreet." Ryan nodded, placing his bag on the second bed. "I contacted my buddy Michael. He works security here in Atlanta now. He'll have 2 guys with us tomorrow, just in case Marcus reacts badly." Sarah paused. "Do you think he might get violent?" "I don't think so, but better safe than sorry. Michael and his team will stay in the background unless needed." Sarah sat on the edge of the bed and called her parents. When her mother answered, she put the phone on speaker. "We're here," Sarah said. "How are the boys?" "They're wonderful," Jennifer replied. "They're in the backyard with Grandpa right now, building a fort with sticks." "Can I talk to them?" "Of course. Hold on." Sarah heard her mother calling the boys. Then suddenly, 4 excited voices filled the phone. "Mommy!" "We found bugs," Matthew exclaimed. "And a frog," added Malcolm. "A real frog?" Sarah asked, smiling at Ryan. "It was green and jumpy," Mark explained. Michael, the quietest of the four, finally spoke. "When are you coming home, Mommy?" Sarah's heart tightened. "In a few days, sweetheart." "Are you being good for Grandma and Grandpa?" "Yes!" they all shouted in unison. After saying goodbye, Sarah ended the call and looked at Ryan. "Hearing their voices makes me more certain. They deserve to know their father, and Marcus deserves to know them, even if it happens in a way that embarrasses him." Across town, Marcus sat at a restaurant table with his mother Elizabeth and his wife Amber. Elizabeth Johnson was in her 60s with elegant silver hair and Marcus's same confident posture. "I can't believe I'm finally going to be a grandmother," Elizabeth said, smiling at Amber. "I've waited so long for this moment." Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "We're very excited," Amber said politely, though her tone was cooler than usual. "I remember when you and Sarah were trying," Elizabeth continued, unaware of the tension her words created. "It was so difficult watching you both struggle." Marcus cleared his throat. "Let's not talk about Sarah, Mother." Elizabeth looked surprised. "I was just saying how happy I am that you're finally becoming a father. It's what you always wanted." "Speaking of the shower tomorrow," Amber interrupted, "do you have your speech ready, Elizabeth, as the grandmother-to-be?" "Of course, dear. I wouldn't miss this opportunity for anything in the world." Elizabeth reached across the table and patted Amber's hand. "My first grandchild. It's a dream come true." Marcus stared at his plate, saying nothing. The weight of his mother's words hung in the air between them. "Did you invite many of your old friends, Marcus?" Elizabeth asked. "People who knew you and Sarah?" "Some," Marcus replied vaguely. "I'm sure Sarah would be happy for you," Elizabeth said. "Despite everything, she always wanted you to be happy." Marcus looked up, meeting his mother's eyes. "Sarah wouldn't come to the shower, Mother. She wouldn't be able to handle seeing us happy." It was the first direct lie he had told about the situation, and it left a bitter taste in his mouth. As he took a drink of water, his phone vibrated with a notification. It was from Sarah. "Looking forward to tomorrow. I have some surprising news to share." Marcus stared at his phone screen, reading Sarah's message again. "Surprising news?" he muttered, showing his wife and mother the text. Amber's face paled. "What does that mean?" "Nothing," Marcus said quickly. "She's just trying to get attention." Elizabeth looked between them with confusion. "Sarah is texting you? I thought you said she wouldn't come to the shower." Marcus put his phone away. "It's complicated, Mother." The restaurant suddenly felt too small, too crowded. Marcus excused himself and stepped outside into the cool Atlanta evening. His mind raced with possibilities. What surprising news could Sarah possibly have? The next morning, Sarah woke early in her hotel room. She needed time alone to think. Ryan was still asleep in the other bed when she quietly dressed and left a note saying she'd be at Piedmont Park. The spring air was crisp as Sarah walked along the paths of Atlanta's most famous park. Joggers passed by. Families spread blankets on the grass. She found an empty bench overlooking the lake and sat down. After a few minutes, she took out her phone and called David Chen, the pediatrician she'd been dating in Boston for the past 6 months. "Hey," she said when he answered. "Just wanted to hear a friendly voice." "How's Atlanta?" David asked. His voice was warm, comforting, beautiful. Weird to be back. Sarah watched a family with small children feed ducks by the water. "The baby shower is tomorrow." "Are you ready?" Sarah sighed. "I think so. But David, I keep asking myself if I'm doing this for the right reasons." "What do you mean? Am I doing this for the boys or to hurt Marcus?" She closed her eyes. "Sometimes I'm not sure anymore." David was quiet for a moment. "Maybe it's both. That doesn't make it wrong." "He hurt me so badly," Sarah whispered. "The things he said about me not being able to have children. And now you have 4 beautiful boys who look exactly like him." David said. That would be hard for anyone to process. I want him to know his sons. I want my sons to know their father, but I also want Marcus to feel the pain I felt when he humiliated me. Sarah wiped a tear from her cheek. Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you human, David replied. Just remember who you are, Sarah. Don't let this change you. After ending the call, Sarah sat watching the water for a long time. In a coffee shop across town, Ryan met with Michael Torres, his former Marine Corps buddy, who now worked in private security in Atlanta. Thanks for meeting me on short notice, Ryan said, shaking Michael's hand. This means a lot. Michael nodded. You said your sister needs backup for some kind of confrontation? Yeah. Ryan explained the situation. Sarah's ex-husband Marcus, the quadruplets, and the baby shower planned for tomorrow. We don't think Marcus will get violent, but he might not react well to finding out he has 4 kids he never knew about. Michael whistled softly. That's heavy. And you want security there just in case? 3 guys should be enough. Just stay in the background unless needed. No problem. I'll bring Jake and Carlos. We'll wear suits, blend in with the guests. No one will know we're there unless there's trouble. Ryan relaxed slightly. Perfect. I appreciate this. So the ex-husband has no idea about the kids? None at all? None. Sarah moved to Boston right after the divorce was final. When she found out the IVF worked, she decided to raise the boys on her own. Michael shook his head. And now she's going to tell him at his baby shower for his new wife? That's cold. He deserves it, Ryan said firmly. You should have seen what he did to my sister. At the Reynolds estate in Buckhead, Amber sat in the living room surrounded by baby shower gifts that had arrived early. Her mother helped her open each box, writing down who sent what for thank you cards later. This one is from your cousin Stephanie, Eleanor said, handing Amber a beautifully wrapped package. Amber opened it to find a pink baby blanket. It's beautiful, she said, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. What's wrong, darling? Eleanor asked. Nothing, just tired. It's that woman coming tomorrow, isn't it, Marcus's ex-wife? Amber nodded. I don't understand why he invited her. It's so strange. Eleanor handed her another package. This one doesn't have a card attached. Amber unwrapped it to find a small box. Inside were 4 identical blue baby onesies, each exactly the same size. That's odd, she said, holding them up. Eleanor frowned. Who would send blue clothes? Everyone knows you're having a girl. Amber looked at the shipping label. S. Williams. That's Sarah's name. Marcus's ex-wife sent you baby clothes? Blue ones? I don't understand, Amber said, looking confused. Is this some kind of message? Later that evening, Amber showed the onesies to Marcus. Why would she send these? What does it mean? Marcus held one of the tiny blue outfits, his face showing confusion. It's nothing. She's just being petty. 4 identical blue onesies isn't nothing, Marcus. Just forget about it, he said, though the gift had clearly unsettled him. She's trying to get under our skin before the shower. That night, Marcus's best friend James hosted a surprise dad chelor party at the exclusive Terminus Club in downtown Atlanta. 12 of Marcus's friends and colleagues gathered in a private room with expensive whiskey and cigars. To fatherhood, James toasted, raising his glass. Marcus Johnson is finally going to be a dad? Everyone cheered and drank. Marcus smiled, but his mind was elsewhere. 3 hours later, most of the guests had left. Only Marcus and James remained sitting in leather chairs with half-empty glasses. What's really going on with you? James asked. You've been distracted all night. Marcus drained his glass. Sarah's coming tomorrow. I know, I still think that's a mistake. She sent Amber 4 blue baby onesies, identical ones. James frowned. What? Why? I don't know. Marcus poured himself more whiskey. And she texted me saying she has surprising news to share. What news could she possibly have? Marcus stared into his glass. Nothing that matters now. Are you sure this is about Sarah, or is it about you? James asked carefully. About becoming a father? What's that supposed to mean? I mean, are you ready for this? A baby changes everything. Marcus laughed bitterly. You think I don't know that? It's all I ever wanted. It's why I left Sarah. Was it? James asked quietly. Or did you leave because it was easier than facing disappointment? What do you want me to say? Marcus's voice rose. That I regret how I treated her? That sometimes I wake up at night wondering if I made a mistake? That I'm terrified of failing as a father? James said nothing, but discreetly pressed record on his phone, disturbed by his friend's outburst. I did what I had to do, Marcus continued. Sarah couldn't give me children. Amber could. It's that simple. Life isn't simple, Marcus, neither are people. Tomorrow, Sarah will see exactly what she missed out on, Marcus said, his words slightly slurred from the alcohol. She'll see my perfect wife, my perfect life, and know that leaving her was the best decision I ever made. James shook his head sadly. I hope it brings you the peace you're looking for. Back at the hotel, Sarah sat on her bed reviewing photos of her boys on her phone. Ryan watched her from the other bed. I've been thinking about what to say tomorrow, Sarah said. I need to stay calm and dignified. No matter how Marcus reacts, Ryan agreed. Sarah nodded. I'll introduce the boys first. Then explain they're his sons from our last IVF attempt. He'll be shocked. He'll probably demand a DNA test, Sarah said. I'm prepared for that. I've already contacted a lab in Atlanta. Ryan studied his sister's face. Are you nervous? Terrified, she admitted, but also ready. It's time for the truth. She showed Ryan a photo on her phone. This is my favorite picture of all 4 boys together. They're wearing the outfits I want them to wear tomorrow. Ryan looked at the photo of his 4 identical nephews, all with Marcus's distinctive dimples and eyes. There's no way he can deny they're his. The resemblance is too strong. That's what I'm counting on, Sarah said. In Cambridge, Massachusetts, Sarah's parents, Robert and Jennifer Williams, prepared for bed in their large colonial home. In the guest room, 4 small toddler beds were arranged in a row, each occupied by one of the quadruplets. Do you think they understand any of this? Robert asked his wife as they peeked in on the sleeping boys. Jennifer shook her head. They're only 2. They know they're going on an airplane tomorrow to see their mommy, that's all. I worry about how this will affect them, Robert said. Seeing Marcus for the first time. Being part of this confrontation. They're too young to remember it, Jennifer said. And Sarah needs to do this. For herself and for the boys. Robert gently closed the door to the boys' room. I just hope Marcus doesn't try to cause trouble after he finds out. He could demand custody, visitation. One bridge at a time, Jennifer said. First, he needs to know they exist. I'll never forget the look on Sarah's face when she told us she was pregnant, Robert said. 6 months after the divorce was final, she was terrified. And now look at her, Jennifer smiled. She's raised 4 beautiful boys on her own for 2 years. She's stronger than she knows. Tomorrow will test that strength, Robert said. I just hope she's ready. As they turned out their bedroom light, Robert's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Is everything ready for tomorrow? Boys all packed? Robert replied, all set. Flight leaves at 9:30. We'll be in Atlanta by noon. In her hotel room, Sarah read her father's message and took a deep breath. In less than 24 hours, everything would change. She looked one last time at the invitation with Marcus's handwritten note. Come see what a real family looks like. Sarah turned off her light and whispered into the darkness, Oh, I will, Marcus. I absolutely will. Sarah woke up at 7 o'clock on the morning of the baby shower. She opened the hotel room curtains to reveal a bright Atlanta spring day. The sky was perfectly blue without a single cloud. Good morning, Ryan said, already dressed in his navy suit. Mom texted. Their plane is on schedule to land at 11:30. Sarah nodded, checking her own phone. The photographer will meet us at the hotel at 1 o'clock. The shower starts at 2. Are you ready for this? Ryan asked. Sarah took a deep breath. I've been preparing for this moment for 2 years. At the Grand Atlanta Hotel, event planner Olivia Chen directed her staff as they transformed the crystal ballroom. Pink roses filled crystal vases on every table. A champagne fountain bubbled at the center of the room. Along the north wall, a dessert table featured cookies shaped like baby rattles and a 3-tier cake topped with a sugar sculpture of a baby girl. The chairs need to be exactly 1 foot apart, Olivia instructed. Mrs. Reynolds was very specific about the spacing. One of the staff approached her. Ms. Chen, Mr. Johnson is here. He wants to inspect the room. Olivia nodded. Of course. Send him in. Marcus entered the ballroom at 9:15, his expensive suit perfectly tailored to his athletic frame. His eyes scanned the room critically. Is everything to your satisfaction, Mr. Johnson? Olivia asked. Move that table, Marcus said, pointing to a small table near the entrance. I want a clear view of the door from the main table. Olivia raised an eyebrow but nodded to her staff. Of course. Marcus walked around the room, checking every detail. And the photographer? Will arrive at 1:30, as requested. Good. Marcus positioned himself by the main table, looking toward the entrance. He seemed to be mentally rehearsing something, his eyes fixed on the doorway. Is there anything else you need, Mr. Johnson? Olivia asked. Marcus checked his watch. No, everything needs to be perfect today, that's all. Across town, at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, Jennifer and Robert Williams guided 4 excited toddlers through the terminal. Hold Grandpa's hand, Michael, Jennifer said, keeping a firm grip on Malcolm and Matthew. Mark, stay close to me. Robert looked down at the small boy holding his hand. Are you excited to see Mommy? Michael nodded, his dark eyes, so much like Marcus's, wide with excitement. We go on airplane. Yes, we did, Robert said gently. And now we're going to see Mommy. Jennifer checked her phone. Sarah says to take a taxi directly to the hotel. They're in room 412. Are we sure this is a good idea? Robert asked quietly, looking at the 4 identical boys in their matching outfits. Bringing them to this shower? It's too late to change the plan now, Jennifer replied. Sarah needs to do this, and she needs our support. At 11 o'clock, guests began arriving at the Reynolds estate to carpool to the hotel. Eleanor Reynolds greeted each person warmly, though her smile seemed slightly strained. Welcome, Patricia, she said to a stylishly dressed woman. We're so pleased you could join us for Amber's special day. I wouldn't miss it, Patricia replied. How is the mother-to-be feeling? Wonderful, Eleanor lied smoothly. Just getting ready upstairs. In reality, Amber was sitting on her childhood bed, staring out the window. Her mother knocked gently before entering. Darling, people are arriving. Are you nearly ready? Amber turned. Her pink maternity dress was beautiful, but her eyes were sad. Why did he have to invite her, Mom? Why did he have to make today about his ex-wife? Eleanor sat beside her daughter. Men can be incredibly stupid sometimes, especially when their pride is involved. She took Amber's hand. But today is about you and your baby girl. Don't let Marcus or his ex-wife take that away from you. Amber nodded, placing her hand on her pregnant belly. You're right. This is my day. Our daughter's day. Exactly, Eleanor said, helping Amber to her feet. Now let's go show everyone how wonderful you look. At the hotel, Ryan met with Michael Torres and 2 other security professionals in the lobby. All 3 men wore dark suits and earpieces. Here's how we'll position ourselves, Michael said, showing Ryan a diagram of the ballroom. Carlos will be by the main entrance. Jake will be near the bar. I'll stay close to Sarah. If Johnson gets aggressive, we'll intervene immediately. Ryan nodded. I don't think he'll get physical, but he might get very angry. "We're prepared either way," Michael assured him. "Your sister and her kids will be safe." In their hotel room, Sarah sat with photographer Jessica Torres, reviewing the plan one last time. "I want natural shots," Sarah explained. "Nothing staged or obvious. And when the boys come in, I want you to capture Marcus's face. That's the most important moment." Jessica nodded, checking her cameras. "I understand. I'll be discreet but thorough." A knock on the door interrupted them. Ryan entered with Jennifer, Robert, and 4 excited little boys who immediately ran to Sarah. "Mommy!" they cried in unison, wrapping their small arms around her legs. Sarah knelt down, hugging each one. "I missed you so much." "Did you have fun with Grandma and Grandpa?" "We went on a big airplane," Mark announced proudly. "And had cookies," added Matthew. Sarah looked up at her parents. "Thank you for bringing them." Jennifer nodded, her expression serious. "Are you sure about this, Sarah?" Sarah stood, keeping her hands on her son's shoulders. "Yes, it's time." Jessica smiled at the boys. "They look exactly like their father." "That's what I'm counting on," Sarah said quietly. At 1 o'clock, the crystal ballroom was nearly ready. Marcus stood by the window, watching as cars pulled into the hotel parking lot. James approached him, 2 glasses of water in hand. "Last chance to reconsider," James said, offering Marcus a glass. Marcus took it, his eyes never leaving the window. "Reconsider what?" "This whole thing. Inviting Sarah, using your baby shower as some kind of revenge." "It's not revenge," Marcus said. "It's closure." James shook his head. "This isn't how you get closure, Marcus. This is how you create more pain." "She deserves it." "Does Amber?" James asked quietly. "Does your unborn daughter deserve to have her celebration turned into this spectacle?" For a moment, doubt flickered across Marcus's face. Then his expression hardened. "Sarah made her choice years ago." "So did you," James reminded him. "You left her when she was at her most vulnerable. She couldn't give me children. And yet you've invited her to celebrate the child you're having with another woman. Don't you see how cruel that is?" Marcus turned away from the window. "I don't need a lecture right now, James. Either support me or leave." James sighed. "I'll always be your friend, Marcus. But that means telling you when you're making a mistake. And this is a huge mistake." By 1:30, the ballroom was filling with guests. Colleagues from Peachtree Financial congratulated Marcus with handshakes and backslaps. Amber's friends from her interior design firm clustered around her, admiring her pink dress and touching her pregnant belly. Eleanor Reynolds supervised the gifts table while Thomas Reynolds, Amber's father, chatted with business associates near the bar. At 1:45, Amber's mother helped her into a decorated chair at the center of the room. Guests began taking their seats at the surrounding tables. Marcus stood near the entrance, checking his watch repeatedly. His mother, Elizabeth, approached him. "The room looks beautiful," she said. "Amber seems happy." "Yes," Marcus replied, distracted. Elizabeth followed his gaze to the doorway. "Are you expecting someone else?" Before Marcus could answer, James appeared at his side. "It's time to start, Marcus." "Everyone's waiting." Marcus nodded, taking his place beside Amber's chair. He leaned down and kissed her cheek mechanically. Her smile in response was equally forced. The photographer Amber's mother had hired began taking pictures of the couple. Eleanor Reynolds clinked a glass for attention. "Welcome, everyone! We're so happy you could join us to celebrate Amber and Marcus's baby girl." The guests applauded. Amber smiled and waved. Marcus continued to watch the door. In the elevator heading up to their room, Sarah checked her appearance one last time in the mirrored wall. Her simple blue dress was elegant but understated. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup minimal. "The boy's hair needs fixing," Jennifer said, trying to smooth down Malcolm's cowlick. "It's fine, Mom," Sarah said. "I want them to look natural." The elevator doors opened on the 4th floor. Sarah turned to her family. "Wait here with the boys. I'll go in first. Alone. When I text you, Ryan, bring them in. Ryan nodded. We'll be ready. Sarah hugged each of her sons. Mommy will see you very soon, okay? Be good for Uncle Ryan and Grandma and Grandpa. The boys nodded solemnly, though they clearly didn't understand the significance of the moment. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at her watch. It was exactly 2 o'clock. It's time, she said. She stepped back into the elevator alone, pressing the button for the lobby. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of her 4 little boys standing with her family. Marcus's eyes looking back at her from 4 identical faces. The elevator descended, and Sarah straightened her shoulders. In minutes, Marcus Johnson's perfect world would change forever. The elevator doors opened, and Sarah stepped into the hotel lobby. She could hear music and voices coming from the crystal ballroom. Through the partially open doors, she glimpsed pink decorations and guests in fancy clothes. Sarah paused to send a text message to Ryan. I'm going in. Wait 5 minutes, then bring them down. Taking a deep breath, she smoothed her blue dress and walked toward the ballroom entrance. The hotel staff member at the door checked her name against the guest list. Sarah Williams? He confirmed. Yes, she replied. Welcome to the Johnson Reynolds baby shower. The noise in the room dimmed as she entered. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Sarah felt 50 pairs of eyes watching her, but she kept her focus straight ahead. Marcus stood near the main table, his back to the entrance. When he noticed the sudden quiet, he turned around. His eyes locked with Sarah's, and a smile spread across his face. Not a friendly smile, but one of triumph. The room remained silent as Marcus walked toward her, glass of champagne in hand. Sarah, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. You made it. Hello, Marcus, she replied calmly. Marcus looked around the room, clearly enjoying the attention. He raised his glass and clinked it with a fork. Everyone, he announced, I'd like you to welcome my ex-wife Sarah, the woman who couldn't give me children. Gasps echoed through the room. Amber, sitting in her decorated chair, turned bright red with embarrassment. Her mother Eleanor put a protective hand on her shoulder. Sarah maintained her composure. She smiled politely and addressed the room. Hello, everyone. Congratulations, Marcus and Amber. Marcus's smile grew wider, clearly pleased with Sarah's discomfort. Thank you for coming to see what a real family looks like. Sarah looked directly into his eyes. Actually, Marcus, I wanted to ask you something. Do you remember those embryos we created during our marriage? The ones from our last round of IVF? Marcus's smile faltered slightly. What about them? Do you ever wonder what happened to them? Marcus shook his head dismissively. They were destroyed after the divorce, I assume. No, Sarah said quietly. They weren't. She turned toward the ballroom entrance and nodded. Everyone followed her gaze as Ryan appeared in the doorway, holding the hands of 2 small boys. Behind him, Sarah's parents each held the hand of another identical boy. 4 identical little boys in matching blue outfits walked into the room. They had dark hair, brown eyes, and Marcus's distinctive dimples when they smiled. There was no mistaking whose children they were. The photographer Jessica moved quietly through the room, capturing every moment as planned. Marcus, Sarah said clearly, I'd like you to meet Michael, Matthew, Mark, and Malcolm. Your sons. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Marcus stood frozen, his champagne glass nearly slipping from his hand. That's impossible, he whispered. The last round of IVF worked, Sarah continued, her voice steady. But you left before I could tell you. These boys are 2 years old. They're your sons, Marcus. Elizabeth Johnson pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide with shock and wonder. She stopped in front of the quadruplets, tears streaming down her face. Oh my God, she whispered, kneeling down to their level. Look at you. You have his eyes, his smile. Michael, the bravest of the 4, stepped forward and touched Elizabeth's cheek. Why are you crying?" Elizabeth laughed through her tears. "Because I'm so happy to meet you." Marcus still hadn't moved. He stared at the boys, his face pale, his body rigid. Amber struggled to stand from her chair. Her mother helped her up as she stared first at the quadruplets, then at Marcus. "You told everyone she couldn't have children," Amber said, her voice breaking. "You humiliated her. And all this time—" Marcus finally seemed to snap out of his shock. "This is ridiculous. This is some kind of trick." "It's not a trick," Sarah said. "They're your biological sons. I used one of our stored embryos 6 months after our divorce was final. The doctors said there was a small chance of multiple births with IVF. I got quadruplets." The boys looked around curiously at the decorations and people. They were too young to understand the drama unfolding around them. James Wilson watched from across the room, shaking his head sadly. He had warned Marcus this would happen. Not the revelation of children, but that his plan would backfire. Amber's father, Thomas, stepped forward, placing his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "I think we need to give everyone some space," he announced to the guests. "Perhaps we could take a short break." Guests began to murmur and move toward the exit, eager to escape the uncomfortable situation but reluctant to miss any of the drama. Marcus finally found his voice. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded, stepping closer to Sarah. "You had no right to keep this from me." "No right?" Sarah asked incredulously. "You left me, Marcus. You told everyone I was defective because I couldn't have children. You humiliated me. You destroyed our marriage because I couldn't give you what you wanted. That doesn't give you the right to hide my children from me." Elizabeth stood up, positioning herself between Marcus and Sarah. "Not now, Marcus. These boys don't need to see you angry." The quadruplets, sensing the tension, moved closer to Sarah. Mark grabbed her hand. "Mommy, is that man mad?" he asked loudly. "It's okay, sweetie," Sarah assured him. "This is just a grown-up conversation." Marcus stared at the boy who had spoken. The child was his mirror image, down to the way he tilted his head when asking a question. Amber approached slowly, her hand resting on her pregnant belly. She looked at the 4 little boys, then at Marcus. "You told me she was broken," Amber said quietly. "You said she couldn't have children. That's why you left her." Marcus turned to Amber. "This doesn't change anything between us." "And it changes everything," Amber replied. "If you lied about this, what else have you lied about?" The room had emptied except for the immediate family. Sarah's parents stood protectively near the boys. Ryan positioned himself close to Sarah. James remained by the window, watching silently. The photographer continued to capture every moment. Elizabeth knelt beside the quadruplets again. "Would you boys like to meet your grandmother?" she asked gently. "Are you our grandma?" Malcolm asked. "Yes, I am," Elizabeth said, tears filling her eyes again. "I'm your daddy's mother." "Where is our daddy?" Matthew asked, looking around the room. All eyes turned to Marcus. For the first time, he seemed genuinely affected. His expression shifted from anger to confusion to something like pain. He started, then stopped. "This is impossible." "DNA doesn't lie, Marcus," Sarah said. "Look at them. They have your eyes, your dimples. Even the way Michael stands with his hands in his pockets, that's you." Marcus took a single step toward the boys, who immediately moved behind Sarah. "They don't know you," Sarah explained. "They've never met you." "Because you kept them from me!" Marcus's voice rose again. "Because you didn't want them!" Sarah shot back. "You wanted a child so badly you left me. But when I finally had your children, you were already gone." Marcus ran his hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration the boys unconsciously mimicked as they watched him. "This is insane," he muttered. "This can't be happening." Amber moved away from him, going to stand near her parents. The distance between them was more than physical. "I want a DNA test," Marcus said suddenly, his voice shaking. I need proof these are my children." Sarah nodded calmly. "I thought you might. I've already scheduled one for tomorrow morning at Atlanta Medical Center, 9 o'clock. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. "You planned all of this?" "I received your invitation, Marcus," Sarah replied. "Come see what a real family looks like, you wrote. So here I am, with your sons." Elizabeth had managed to coax Malcolm onto her lap. The little boy played with her necklace, completely unaware of the significance of the moment. "4," Marcus whispered. "4 boys." "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "Identical quadruplets. The doctor said the chances were extremely low, but then, you always did beat the odds, didn't you, Marcus?" Marcus looked from the boys to Sarah to Amber, who refused to meet his eyes. His perfectly orchestrated moment of triumph had become his worst nightmare. "I'll be at the medical center tomorrow," he said finally. "We'll settle this once and for all." "It's already settled," Sarah replied. "But if you need scientific proof, that's fine. The boys and I will be there." The quadruplets, growing restless, began to explore the room. Mark picked up a pink balloon. Matthew examined the cake. Michael and Malcolm stayed close to their grandmother, fascinated by her earrings. As Marcus watched his sons, move around the room that was meant to celebrate his unborn daughter, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out to find a text message from Amber. "Don't come home tonight." Marcus stared at his phone, reading Amber's message again. He looked up to see her being led away by her parents, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The baby shower was officially over, though it had barely begun. The few remaining guests whispered in small groups as they gathered their belongings. Eleanor Reynolds approached each person, apologizing quietly and thanking them for coming. The beautiful pink decorations now seemed out of place in the tense atmosphere. "I think we should go," one of Amber's friends whispered to another. "Absolutely." "This is too awkward." Marcus stood alone in the center of the room, watching as his perfectly planned day collapsed around him. James approached cautiously. "Marcus, we should leave," James said quietly. "Give everyone some space." Before Marcus could respond, Thomas Reynolds stormed toward him, his face red with anger. "You!" Thomas pointed a finger at Marcus's chest. "What kind of game are you playing? First you invite your ex-wife to humiliate her, and instead you humiliate my daughter?" "Mr. Reynolds, this isn't what it looks like," Marcus began. "Really? Because it looks like you've been lying to my daughter from day one. It looks like you have 4 children you never told her about." "I didn't know about them," Marcus insisted. "Sarah kept them from me." "And why would she do that?" Thomas asked. "Because you're such a stand-up guy?" Eleanor appeared at her husband's side. "Thomas, please." "Not here. Amber needs us." Thomas nodded curtly. "Stay away from my daughter tonight. She needs time to process this disaster you've created." Marcus watched helplessly as Amber's parents left the ballroom. He turned to find Sarah gathering the quadruplets, who had started to grow restless. "We should go too," Sarah said to her parents and Ryan. "The boys need lunch and a nap." "You're not going anywhere," Marcus said, moving toward her. "Not until we talk about this." Ryan stepped between them. "Back off, Marcus." "These are my sons," Marcus said, his voice rising. "You kept them from me for 2 years." The hotel manager approached, looking concerned. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. We have other guests in the hotel." James intervened. "Maybe we could use a private room? Somewhere to discuss this calmly?" The manager nodded. "We have a conference room available. Please follow me." Minutes later, they had relocated to a small conference room down the hall. The quadruplets sat at one end of the long table, coloring on paper the hotel staff had provided. Sarah, her parents, and Ryan sat near the boys. Marcus, James, and Elizabeth took seats at the opposite end. The photographer had been asked to wait outside. "How could you do this?" Marcus demanded once the door closed. "How could you keep my children from me for 2 years?" Sarah met his gaze steadily. "After the way you left me?" After you told everyone I was defective because I couldn't have children? You think I felt safe telling you I was pregnant? You had no right. I had every right, Sarah interrupted. You abandoned me, Marcus. You humiliated me. You made me feel worthless because I couldn't give you children. Then I found out I was pregnant with 4 of your sons. You should have told me, Marcus insisted. Why? So you could use them to boost your ego? So you could parade them around like trophies? Marcus slammed his hand on the table. They're my children. The sudden noise startled the boys. Mark began to cry. Sarah immediately went to comfort him. This is exactly why, she said, holding the frightened boy. Look at yourself, Marcus. You're not thinking about them. You're thinking about you. Elizabeth moved to the boy's end of the table. May I help? She asked Sarah gently. After a moment's hesitation, Sarah nodded. Elizabeth sat beside Malcolm, who was watching his brother cry. Hello, she said softly. I'm your grandmother. Would you like to draw a picture with me? Malcolm nodded, handing her a blue crayon. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears as she began to color with her grandson. Marcus watched this interaction, his anger temporarily forgotten. Mother, what are you doing? I'm getting to know my grandsons, Elizabeth replied simply. Something I should have been doing for the past 2 years. We don't even know for sure they're mine, Marcus said. Don't be ridiculous, Elizabeth replied. Look at them, Marcus. They're the spitting image of you at that age. I want a DNA test. Today, not tomorrow. Sarah shook her head. That's not possible. The lab is closed today. We'll go first thing tomorrow morning. Convenient, Marcus muttered. Robert Williams, who had been silent until now, spoke up. What exactly are you implying, Marcus? That Sarah somehow found 4 identical boys who look exactly like you to trick you? Listen to yourself. Marcus ran his hands through his hair in frustration. This is insane. My whole life just changed in 5 minutes. Welcome to parenthood, Jennifer Williams said dryly. James, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. What happens after the DNA test, assuming it confirms what we all already know? Everyone looked at Marcus, waiting for his answer. They're my sons, he said slowly. I have rights. Rights come with responsibilities, Sarah replied. Responsibilities you've never assumed. Because I didn't know they existed. And now you do, Sarah said. So what are you going to do about it, Marcus? Because these boys have lived their entire lives without you. They don't know you. They're happy and healthy and loved. What exactly are you planning to contribute? Marcus had no immediate answer. He looked at the 4 little boys, his flesh and blood, and felt a strange mix of emotions he couldn't identify. Slowly, he stood and walked toward them. The boys immediately grew quiet, watching this stranger approach. Marcus knelt down to their level. Hello, he said awkwardly. I'm Marcus. The boys stared at him with identical expressions of caution. None of them responded. You can call me, well, I guess you can call me Dad, Marcus continued, his voice less confident. Michael, the most serious of the 4, moved closer to Sarah. I want to go, Mommy, he said. The rejection stung Marcus more deeply than he expected. He stood up, trying to hide his hurt. They don't know you, Sarah explained, her voice softer now. You can't just walk in and expect them to accept you as their father. It will take time. Time I've already lost, Marcus said bitterly. Because of you. Ryan shook his head in disgust. Still blaming others, huh, Marcus? Still the victim? Ryan, Sarah cautioned. That's enough. Elizabeth had managed to engage all 4 boys in a drawing activity. They seemed more relaxed now, occasionally giggling as she praised their artwork. They're beautiful children, Sarah, Elizabeth said. You've done an amazing job with them. Thank you, Sarah replied. They're my whole world. Marcus watched this exchange with growing unease. The reality of the situation was finally sinking in. He had 4 sons, 4 children he had never known, and they wanted nothing to do with him. "I need to talk to Amber," he said suddenly. "I need to explain." "I don't think she wants to hear from you right now," James said gently. Her text was pretty clear. "This changes everything," Marcus muttered. "My whole life." "Our sons' lives haven't changed," Sarah pointed out. "They still need lunch and naps and stability. This revelation is a shock for you, but I won't let it disrupt their routine." Marcus looked at her with new understanding. "You really have done this all alone, haven't you?" "I've had help," Sarah said, nodding toward her parents. "But yes, I've raised them alone." "Why Boston?" Marcus asked. "Why move so far away?" "I needed a fresh start, away from Atlanta, away from the gossip, away from the memories." Sarah's voice softened. "And I didn't want to be looking over my shoulder, wondering if I'd run into you." The boys had finished their drawings and were growing restless. Jennifer checked her watch. "They really do need lunch," she said, "and naps soon after." Sarah nodded. "We should go back to our hotel." "Wait," Marcus said quickly. "When will I see them again?" "Tomorrow." "At the DNA testing facility," Sarah replied. "After that, we can discuss how to move forward." "That's not enough time," Marcus protested. "They're my sons." "They're children who need stability and routine," Sarah corrected him. "Not a father who suddenly appears and makes demands." Elizabeth gathered the boys' drawings. "Marcus, Sarah is right. These boys need time. You can't rush this." Marcus looked at his mother in disbelief. "Whose side are you on?" "The boys," Elizabeth replied simply. "As you should be." As Sarah prepared to leave with the quadruplets, Marcus watched helplessly. He had planned this day for weeks, imagining Sarah's face as she saw his perfect life. Instead, he was the one left reeling. 9 o'clock tomorrow, Sarah reminded him. Atlanta Medical Center. Marcus nodded numbly. As the group filed out, Elizabeth lingered behind. "What am I supposed to do now?" Marcus asked her. "Amber won't talk to me. My sons don't know me. Everything is falling apart." Elizabeth touched his cheek gently. "For the first time in your life, Marcus, it's not about what you want. It's about what those boys need." After everyone left, Marcus stood alone in the conference room, surrounded by children's drawings. His phone buzzed again, a message from his law firm. "Need to discuss recent events. Please call office ASAP." Word had already spread. His perfect image was crumbling. In the hotel lobby, he passed a mirror and barely recognized the man staring back at him. In the span of 1 hour, he had become a father of 4 and potentially lost his wife, his reputation, and his carefully constructed life. He stepped outside into the bright Atlanta afternoon. Across the parking lot, he saw Sarah helping the quadruplets into a minivan. Elizabeth was taking photos with her phone, clearly treasuring these first moments with her grandchildren. Marcus watched from a distance, a stranger to his own sons.